I
Okay.
want this to be on there. Thank you for being on my show. Ghostly Tales, the Ghostly Tales show. I started it because I am also an author
Awesome.
of the Ghostly Tales. They're not chronicles, they're just, I collect stories from people and so forth. And then I thought, how exciting would it be to just talk about it, talk about everyone's experience. And then I went further. Well, let me capture people that have been out there in the field and are doing the work. So, oh my God.
Well, it's great. Well, it's
Yeah,
great that you're telling people stories because that is really important. Because a
yes,
lot of times these stories are forgotten or they're told so many different ways that we really lose sight of the root, which is very helpful for us paranormal investigators to understand the importance of the root of the story.
absolutely. And that is why I've taken the painstaking work of putting it all down, chronicling it, and then trying to get people on my show, but not, I'm shocked not many people want to share their story. They're scared of ridicule and judgment. And I always say, well, I will honor your story. I'm not trying to ridicule your story. I want to hear it. And,
Hmm.
you know, it, take it at face value. It's not like, oh, did you really feel that? Oh, come on, could have been something. I don't want to do that with because an experience is
I
an
guess that's my
experience.
job
Yeah, but
as a
you do it
paranormal investigator.
right, but you do it in a scientific manner. You're not doing it to insult anyone.
Right.
You're doing it to prove a right or a, no, it's not really there, but it is, that's why I was so fascinated and I wanted to look at your video, but I've been so busy. My dad just passed, and so of course, all that gets in the way of.
Well, I bet.
So,
I'm sorry for your loss.
oh, thank you, appreciate it. I didn't mean to like, verb it out, but that's what's happening in my life, and I want to be honest. So, so you pretty much chronicle like, uh, it's like the unseen presence of physical. So, the naked body. You're trying to. You want to prove if something unseen can or paranormal can touch the skin, because we have our senses, right?
Right. So we're talking about my documentary ParaSense, The Naked Experiments. We've actually been investigating the event of being touched. So many people have experienced it in many different ways. It can be very positive and it can be very negative. So for me, as a paranormal investigator who's been in this field for well over going on, I should say, going on close to 40 years, um, it's it's challenging when people tell me they have these personal experiences because it's your personal experience. You have no way to prove to anybody that this happened unless there's some sort of mark left behind.
Yeah.
Otherwise it is your personal experience and I just have to take your word for it. So when I had gotten a phone call from a young gentleman up in Northport, Washington, who was experiencing the physical phenomena of something groping him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It wasn't new to me. I had heard of stories similar to that, the most famous case, the entity case, where a woman was physically raped by a ghost. And so for me it was fascinating, but it's just like, how do I try to validate these experiences? Just to even, and I hate to say it, you get a lot of people out there, as long as I've been in this, that are just looking for attention,
Mhm.
are just looking to get their story, their fake story told for their 15 minutes of fame. And here's another story where somebody, is claiming to be physically attacked by a ghost. And so I was like, well, I wish there was a way I could validate these experiences. And I really started to get to thinking. I was just like, well, has there been any experiments out there that have tried to validate touch in any way? And to my surprise, there wasn't anything out there.
Mhm.
And so I realized I was the first to take on this challenge of trying to prove touch by some unseen force.
Mhm.
And I started thinking, okay, well, if you want to prove touch, you have to see what's happening to the physical body. Is there something happening to the physical body? Is there some sort of pressure? Is there some sort of heat signature left behind or anything? So I started doing experiments that tried to validate that. And so that actually required subjects to be naked.
Okay.
And the thing was, is, people will always question me is like, why do they have to be naked? Well, if I'm trying to be very transparent in my research, I need to show people that this is not being contaminated by the clothes they're wearing. If you're there in a shirt and you sit there and tell me, "Oh, I just felt something tap my shoulder." Well, anybody who's a skeptic or even the scientific field is going to say, "Well, it could have been your shirt, adjusting in some way and it felt like a tap."
Right.
So things like that just needed to be more transparent. And so nudity just kind of made sense when I started doing the experiments. And as I started to get some interesting results, I reached out to a friend of mine who was a scientist. And I wasn't looking to get him to join my team, but I just wanted to have him validate what I was doing or even give me some sort of, path of what I could do to better my research.
Mhm.
And so I was telling him about what I was doing. He's like, "Oh my God, this is interesting, Ross." And so I said, "Well, would you be interested in joining me one weekend when I do some of these experiments and just kind of see what we're doing? And you can kind of walk me through how you would do it so I can at least, follow suit to make sure I am doing this on a more scientific basis." And so he goes with me on this weekend trip. And as he's watching these experiments happening, curiosity gets the best of him. He's like, "This is really interesting that what you're experiencing. So if I'm going to get involved in this," which I really wasn't thinking he'd get really involved, but at this point he decided he wanted to get involved. He decided, you know what? I need to know what people are experiencing. So he decided to be a naked subject.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I was impressed. I was like, wow, this is crazy. But for him, he needed to understand the sensations that people were claiming when they said that they were being touched. Because when you have that better understanding, you know a little bit better on how to record that phenomena.
Right.
So for him, it was just like it made sense for him to just put himself out there and see what they got. So Chad did. He put himself out there, and sure enough, on his first few experiments, he was actually having these sensations that he couldn't explain. And so it just kind of went from there. He joined my team. We started building more equipment that focused on trying to, collect the data needed to validate these encounters. And so for the first time, we were actually able to track phenomena.
Mhm.
So when a subject felt that sensation of being touched, at that moment, we could see something come from nowhere, come up to the subject, and then leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Enjoying the conversation? Take a moment to subscribe to the Ghosty Tales Show. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so you never miss a new episode. And tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? And remember, your likes, comments, and subscriptions help our show reach more people. Now let's get back to the conversation. Oh.
So we were able to track phenomena. We actually had an experience where one of our subjects got scratched. And before we start our experiments, we actually look them over from head to toe.
Mhm.
And just to make sure that there's no, marks on their body. And we even ask the standard questions. Do you feel any burning sensations, itching, anything that we should document before we start the experiment with you? And so, as we look them over on camera and video, we'll then set them down, start the experiment. And then after the experiment, we look them over again. And during one of those experiments, when we looked them over after the experiment, sure enough, they had a bloody scratch.
Oh my gosh.
And we were like, we just documented this, we just showed that there was nothing there. So that was pretty amazing.
That is,
So yeah, so it's been a fun adventure. It's been challenging, because again, you're trying to validate such a personal experience. And so we're coming up with all kinds of fun experiments and seeing if we can validate these encounters. And right now we're in the middle of filming ParaSense 2.0.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How exciting is that? And what location are you guys using?
We're just kind of going out there and seeing what location gives us the results, that best suit our research, that give us that information that we need to put out there. So it's not like, a lot of these ghost hunting shows, they have a schedule and say, we're going to go here, 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 and always have something to tell.
Right.
We're waiting for the right evidence. We're not trying to force it.
Right. 'Cause I mean, all these shows we watch, prisons, they seem to get a lot of activity in prisons, but how accurate is that? So who knows?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because in ParaSense, the best results we got was at Brushy Mountain Prison.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
But then we also got some really good results in brothels too, old
Okay.
brothels.
Mm,
So it seems like the environment may have a lot to play with it.
okay.
But yeah, it's been really fascinating in the research we've done with that.
So based on the fact that it's naked, do you guys do interiors only, or is it it's is any exteriors, interiors, open gate?
Well, it just really depends on the environment. Yeah, a lot of times it's indoors. It's harder to do an experiment outdoors when you have so many more elements against you.
Hmm.
Like, the wind factor,
Right.
it could be an issue. So yeah, it just depends on the environment, how much control we can have over the environment.
That's the key thing. Controlled environment is a lot easier.
Exactly.
Oh wow. So I love that we went into this rant and I love that you introduced yourself, but let me properly introduce you if I may. So today I'm joined by Ross Allison, a longtime paranormal investigator, author, lecturer, and the creator of ParaSense and the Naked Experiments. With decades of experience exploring the unexplained, Ross brings a fascinating perspective on paranormal research, human perception, and what may exist beyond our ordinary senses. Ross, welcome to Ghostly Tales Show, and thank you, like again, thank you for saying yes to my
Oh,
show.
anytime, anytime.
It's not as easy as they say it is. To get people to say, "Yeah, I'll come on your show." It's like a lot of times it's crickets and you're like, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe next time."
It can be challenging, just as it can be challenging for me to find naked subjects for my
Oh yeah.
research.
Well, I know I will not be participating in that naked challenge.
It
I
does take a certain person willing to put themselves out there. I
Yeah,
know
I'm a
that.
little self-conscious about me. But wow. So your paranormal journey, how did that start? Um,
It started ever since I was a little kid. My mother, she loves ghost stories. So I grew up listening to these stories and was very fascinated by them. I always loved a good ghost story. So as I grew older, I guess the curiosity got more of me. I started reading all the books that I could find on ghosts. Hans Holzer was one of my favorites. I'd read a lot of his books. And you have to understand when I got involved in the paranormal, it was not as popular as it is today.
yeah.
Um, and so when I was living in the Bay Area, I wanted to get involved in the paranormal, and it was challenging. I took a few courses, and then I ended up moving back to Washington, and I still wanted to pursue ghost hunting. There wasn't any outlets in Washington at the time. This is around 2000, and it was early 2000 when I moved back to Washington, and I just wanted to. The bug still was there. And so I ended up. It was Halloween. And so I just reached out to a bunch of my friends and I said, "Hey guys, do you want to do a ghost hunt in a cemetery?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's go do that, but can we hit the bars first?" Yeah.
Yeah.
A bunch of drunks in the cemetery, not
Yeah.
a good thing.
Not a good thing.
So a friend of mine just said, "Well, why don't you start your own group?" And so I did. I started the Advanced Ghost Hunters of Seattle Tacoma. We're the oldest ghost hunting group in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I read that.
And it just kind of took off from there. So I, started doing the ghost hunting, the ghost tours, and writing books because I started to realize, how important the stories are, especially publishing the stories because then it's forever,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So
Yep.
websites are not forever, one
No.
thing to be aware of. So it was just it was important to me to get all that information out there and then publishing my research and from there on out. Yeah.
Wow. So what was the exact phenomenon you were trying to measure, trying to capture? Was it touch? Was it audio? Like what are the audio sentient?
Well, are we talking ParaSense or just in general?
Just in general, like what was your like, I'm gonna do this and I'm
Well,
hoping I capture this type of phenomenon.
I think I was always hoping for some sort of visual proof. You hear
Okay.
the stories of people seeing apparitions.
Okay.
I never had those experiences. I was always envious of people telling me their stories of seeing apparitions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was always a goal for me to hopefully see something like that. And like I said, I've been doing this, I started my group in 2000. So,
Right.
that's when I was, really seriously doing the ghost hunting and trying to capture that phenomena. And I still have yet to see a full-on apparition. I've seen the closest I would say is like shadow figures.
Okay.
I've seen dark figures move across the room, that type of thing, but I have not seen an apparition where I could identify, the sex or the coloring of their clothes or anything like that. So
Mm.
I'm still hoping for that holy grail. But otherwise, as always, whenever you're investigating, you're trying to collect any data that you can to validate people's encounters. So it is a challenge when there is no devices out there, and I'm just being honest with you, that lets you know that there's a ghost in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of hype on television shows, but a lot of it is very suggestive.
Right.
And so it is very misleading for a lot of people in the field or, excited about the field. But I have to let you know that there is no device that says, yes, there's a ghost here. I know there's meters out there that call themselves ghost meters or apps that call themselves ghost
Right.
apps, but it's a lot of suggestive manipulation when it comes to the audience taking in that information. For us as paranormal investigators, we have to use whatever devices that are available to us to help us understand the environment.
Right.
When people claim to have paranormal experiences, you have to understand what changes occurred in the environment to identify that there was something happening at the moment when somebody claims to have a paranormal experience. So for me, a lot of that, it could be audio, it could be visual. It could be just simple, light sensors. It could be simple EMF sensors. There's all kinds of different sensors that we can put into environment and just let us know if there's anything changing in the environment. Because for right now, we don't know what a ghost is made of.
Okay.
So until you have that better understanding of what you're exactly looking for, you just are looking for the changes in the environment that can't be explained.
Mm.
So for me, it's always been a lot of that, collecting as much data as possible that just says that something odd happened at this moment when somebody claims to have had an experience. There's always for somebody who's trying to validate an experience, you need 3 points of data.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we really do focus on. Was it a physical experience along with an audio experience, along with, maybe something visual as well?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we try to focus on when we collect data.
Okay. So what do you think about those shows? Like, I don't know if you heard of Slapped Ham.
Oh
That
yeah.
an Australian guy
I-
that seems to have like image after image after image.
well, for him, he's just, collecting a bunch of
Whatever.
videos, whether they're valid or not.
Right,
Because the problem is we all have access to video, editing equipment on our phones,
right,
So it's so easy to manipulate videos. And we are looking at a time too where a lot of people are getting paid by having, videos out there. And so if you can get so many clicks on your video, you make so much money. So it is frustrating because there is far more people manipulating the environments to have that attention,
right,
to collect those resources. And so you end up finding yourself spending more time debunking
right,
most of those stories rather than, saying, oh, this is proof to the paranormal.
right.
And don't get me wrong, there's probably a handful of those videos that are true, that somebody was just at the right place, right time, and had a unique experience.
Yeah. I've
And
also noticed
so,
I've also noticed it's like third world kind of recording.
mhm.
So you're like, hmm.
So a lot of times, yes, they're looking for attention, making money, that type of stuff. So you always have to, one of the things I always tell my students whenever they take my classes, whenever you're watching these videos, always ask yourself, why were they recording in the first place?
Right. Why
That's
they,
always your
yeah,
first clue, all right? Why
right.
was somebody recording this?
Like, why am I watching this right now? Why is this so wow?
Yeah,
Why is it
yeah,
so much proof there right now? Yeah.
right. And I wish it was that easy. I really
I
do.
know. I
It,
know.
it is still a struggle, even as long as I've been in this field. I probably can count maybe, a handful of times where I have something that I can say, wow, this could very well be something.
Yeah.
But it seems like most of these shows, it's like every time they go out, they're putting their lives in danger. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I made it through alive. That ghost almost killed me.
Right, right. See you next time.
Yeah. See you next time.
It's like, oh my goodness. Especially those Appalachian videos. Those I can't watch those. They scare me so much because it could be real. But anyway, so what's the difference? Have you tested someone clothed and then them not clothed so they could get like a different sensation?
It is one of the experiments I do,
Okay.
but again, it's challenging because you have to understand when you're ghost hunting, it's all about being in the right place, right time.
Yeah.
So you're always looking for the best evidence that you can collect. And so when you do some of these experiments, you obviously want to put yourself in the best environments, the best controlled environments to collect the best evidence that you can put out there and no one will ever question it.
Right.
It would be nice, if you can put something out there and no one would question it. But right now, you should always question every evidence you see,
Well, especially with
you
AI.
know. Right. AI is even, becoming a problem.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things like, I'm open to trying experiments like that. But then when you deal with the fact that here's an opportunity where somebody could get, touched, and you put them in a situation where they were wearing clothes, now it's like, okay, like I said, when somebody's wearing clothes, it becomes contaminated evidence.
Right. So,
When they're saying that they're being touched on the shoulder, now it's contaminated. And I'm like, oh, we could have had them naked and
right.
gotten something better. So
Just get
that's how
naked.
I think,
Yeah, just get
I'm
naked. Don't
just
worry
like,
about the clothes.
yeah, yeah, just if I have the opportunity, I just want to collect as much transparent raw data as possible.
Right.
So I don't want to be in that situation. I hate to be in that situation, just say, oh, yeah, you can't use that, unfortunately, as proof to the paranormal.
Right.
So, it's a challenge. It really is. And I understand the importance of those kind of experiments, but right now I just want to try and validate touch if I can, because I feel if I at least focus on this one phenomena with these experiments, touch, if we could validate touch, then we'll have more data to have a better understanding of what else is going on out there. It
Mm-hmm.
becomes the root to phenomena.
Okay.
All right. So we know that there are visible forces that can touch somebody. And now we have data that can help us pinpoint how that happens. And with that data, now we can take it down different paths and say, okay, now we've proven touch. What other things can we use this data for to validate
Mm-hmm.
ghosts, to prove that ghosts exist? And that's one of the biggest challenges we have in the paranormal world is a lot of these groups or a lot of researchers are just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to prove so many different elements of the paranormal. And I think if we just have a better understanding of one element, of just one element,
Right.
we could actually have a better understanding that could tie them to all of them, all the experiences that we have.
Right.
Because maybe with this data, we have the knowledge of what a ghost is made of. And if we have that information, then we could find out other things about ghosts.
It's like my layman understanding of what ghosts could be made of is just energy. So do they not
But what kind
require,
of energy? That's the thing.
right? Yeah, what type of, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different elements of energy that we don't understand. And the nice thing about it is Chad Goodwin, who is the scientist on the team, he's a real scientist. He's not somebody who just plays one on TV. You can look him up. Right
Right.
now, he's working on energy projects in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So here's somebody who understands energy. And so he's a little bit ahead of the game because he can pinpoint and kind of debunk a lot of these elements that we thought were ghosts.
Okay. You think a lot of it could be can you distinguish between what they call it, echo residual?
Residual energy.
Yeah, and versus someone or in a spirit that's been trapped and is looking for a way out and is trying to make contact, maybe.
So yeah, you got residual hauntings and active hauntings where it does interact with the environment. So I've always said that, with the residual energy, you have to understand that we don't know what it is or how it happens, but energy can be recorded into the environment.
Okay.
We ourselves can leave an imprint behind in maybe a place that we worked or a place that we lived, somewhere that we were maybe constant, people that are creatures of habit. You're doing the same thing over and over. You have a routine. You don't like to break that routine.
Right.
So those type of individuals can easily leave energy behind, an imprint,
Mm-hmm.
because they're doing this thing over and over again. A prime example was there was a couple that moved into a house, and every morning or every Saturday morning, it wasn't every morning, it was every Saturday morning they'd wake up and they would smell cookies baking in their kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't explain it. It was just like clockwork. They'd wake up, go into the kitchen in the morning, and it would be there for about 10, 15 minutes, and then it's gone. And they never smell it again until the next, Saturday morning when they wake up and go down to the kitchen. And come to find out that the previous owner, she would bake cookies every Saturday morning for the homeless shelter down the street. And so that routine somehow got recorded into the environment.
Hmm.
It's something that too I always try to explain to people, just because you hear walking up and down the hall in the middle of the night doesn't mean that it's a ghost. Think of the previous owner that might have been living in your home. And maybe they were going through a very stressful situation in their life, and they were pacing up and down the hall,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out what they were going to do. And somehow they got through it.
Right.
And they moved on and they moved out of the house, and now you moved in. And for some strange reason, that emotion that they were going through just got recorded into the environment. And so now every so often you'll hear somebody walking up and down the hall.
Right. But
So that's another element that somehow gets recorded into the environment.
but that's so amazing that the smell, all of that becomes its own ghost, its own entity, its own
Right.
energy, It's not just the sounds and the actual spiritual essence that is left behind. It's the cookies. Everything that essence touched became a part of that echo.
right?
So that's just so amazing to me. How do you explain something like that?
Until we have a better understanding of how residual energy works, or even how what's recording it into the environment. You know, there used to be the stone tape theory that
Yeah,
people believe that stones, carried the recordings, but a lot of homes aren't made out of stone,
not at all.
So there's just, then there's other theories that maybe wood holds on to memory. And so there's theories behind that. So we're just not sure exactly what it is that holds on to these, as you say, echoes, or these memories that are just trapped and play themselves out over and over again.
Yeah, I don't think it's the material that holds, I mean, it helps like crystals and stone and water and all of that. I just think it's where the energy wants to be or it resides, where like
But if it doesn't carry intelligence, how does it have that choice?
I think I think
There's
energy, yeah, you're right. Energy, consciousness, are they one and the same? And
Yeah,
yeah, so
and those are the puzzles that we are
those
trying to
are,
put together.
how do we answer that?
It is fascinating. Anytime you
Yeah,
have those experiences, it's always going to be, 20 more questions and
yeah.
not enough answers to answer all those questions. There's a lot of great theories and ideas, but that's all they are just theories and ideas.
Mm.
We don't have enough data to back up a lot of this stuff.
Well, how do you
So
feel about having a clairvoyant on your team to like,
I I'm always open to it. Believe me, I've seen some people that have done amazing stuff. I believe that we all have the potential.
Mhm,
Some of us just don't know how to utilize it or understand it. I remember as a kid, my grandmother used to always lose things. And so when I'd go to visit her on the weekends, she'd be like, huffing and puffing because she can't find, such and such that she, misplaced somewhere.
yeah,
And I would walk right to it.
yeah,
I don't know how, I just would, and just know exactly where it is. Now, I don't focus on that stuff today. Maybe I've lost that gift, because if you don't use it, you lose it type of thing. Or I've just become to the point where I'm so focused on the data, I doubt myself too many times.
mhm,
So that's something that, people need to understand. There is this element built into us, the fight or flight,
right.
you know. There's something to that. And so I think everybody has these abilities that we just don't know, understand, or we don't train ourselves. And so I think, yes, there are some individuals out there that would be great for an investigation, that are more sensitive to the environment, that can read the environment better than a lot of us could. But then, there's a lot of people out there that just are very active imaginations, or
Right.
or just looking for their 15 minutes of fame. So it is a challenge, because I will do everything I can to protect the person who may have those abilities. We use very strong protocols. When we do investigations, we do not let our team know where they're going. They
Mhm,
just know if it's a private home or a business. We meet at a public place and then we carpool to the location, so they have no way of finding out any information about where they're investigating. And this is to protect them if they're a psychic or sensitive. And also, too, it's to protect us as a team. We don't want somebody to come in and end up being a fake, and ruining our credibility,
right.
because we put our faith into somebody who, unfortunately, was just looking for the attention. So it is a tough one, but I do find that, my team has found some amazing results just by opening themselves up,
Mhm,
because one of the things that we do is we journal throughout our investigation. And we communication is very limited between team members. They'll write everything down, and then when we meet, and I mean, I have them write everything down. They're taking a line every 5 minutes. I walked in the room, I walked out of the room. When I walked in the room, I had an achy stomach. And it might have been Taco Bell. You
right.
never know, but I tell them to write it down,
Mhm,
so they'll write it down. And as we come together as a team and we start going through our notes, we found that a lot of people on the team in certain situations were picking up on the exact same thing. And when they walked into a certain room, they got lightheaded.
Mm,
And so when you have like three or four members writing the exact same thing down without communicating with each other, then there might be something to that environment. You
right.
know, it could be natural phenomena, it may be paranormal, but when you have those connections, those 3 points of data, you know, then you have a more clear path to go down.
Well, because
So to answer your question, I know it became a long answer, but
it's
yes, I
fine.
do believe that people, there are some gifted people out there.
Yeah, I do have a very close friend who's clairvoyant, and she's helping me through this time. She can see what's happening on the other side, and it's just, I mean, she's someone, and I tell her, why don't you just like help find missing people? Because she can see it. She can tell
Hmm.
you missing, dead, not gonna happen, will never be found in a bad situation. I can't talk about it because government,
Hmm.
uh, she can do that, and she doesn't even have to be at that location. You could just send her a picture, and she'll be like, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah." She
Yeah,
can just
remote
communicate.
viewing. Yep.
She can just talk to you, the one
Hmm.
person, and correlate what's happening. She doesn't
Wow.
even have,
Yeah.
she doesn't even have to see what's happening.
Hmm.
And I went to the Winchester, what, 2 years ago for my birthday, and she's from Peru. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't know anything about our culture. So I told her, "Hey, I'm here at the Winchester, and supposedly this, that." And she goes, "There's nothing there. The only ghost I see is the lady who owned the house."
Huh?
I'm like, "Wow, what a, you don't want to say that. You don't want to, you
Right.
that's their whole thing." But she goes, "Yeah,
Their
there's
whole thing being the
no,
most, it is
yeah."
actually the only documented house, or no, there's two in California that are legally documented as haunted. The Winchester Mystery House
Mhm.
and what
But
was the other one? The Whaley House.
I haven't went. Yeah.
It's in San Diego.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She said there's nobody there, just her. She's just
Yeah.
walking. She goes, she's just walking around. I'm like, okay. Just kind of like, no, not even a big event, big deal. Just that's what that's going.
It is an interesting story. I've actually had the opportunity to check that place out.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty cool place.
Very
Just
interesting.
the history alone.
Yeah, just the history a little bit.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
But I was like, okay, but Alcatraz. If you can do any,
Alcatraz.
if
I would,
you can do anything in Alcatraz, do it there. She says it is riddled with spirits.
yes, I was one of the first teams to actually spend the night on the island
Oh,
and
no,
investigate it.
sir. No, sir. I don't know about
Yeah,
sleeping over. How did that go?
it was amazing.
Like
My
paranormal amazing or
Yes, both, just to have the opportunity to spend the night on the island. And again, this is before ghost hunting, was a huge fad as it is today.
yeah.
So we were one of the first teams to have that opportunity to check it out. And I had my first physical encounter that I can literally say was a ghost. Um, we were investigating the old morgue area,
Yeah,
and
I
they
felt
took
that
us into
too.
a small room. And you have to understand, when we investigated Alcatraz too, it a lot more of the island was closed down at the time. So we got to investigate a lot of abandoned buildings. I've gone back recently and they've opened up a lot of that. So it's really cool to go back into a lot of those spaces that I had to crawl around in,
Mm,
especially in the dark. But anyways, getting back to my story, we went into the old morgue building and they took us downstairs. And downstairs, if you're not familiar with its history, it actually started out as a military base
right.
before it became a prison. And so they had told us that this is where, the gunpowder used to be stored. So they were telling us these interesting stories, and the tour guide left, and um, we went back upstairs and they're like, okay, we'll give you, some time if you guys want to do your investigation here. So I decided I wanted to go back down because I knew my team was going to be excited, wanted to investigate the upstairs morgue area. I kind of wanted to get away from that. So I let them do their little thing. And so I was the first to go down, back down into that basement area. And I it was just, just a little bricked up room. It had the arched brick ceiling, dirt floor. And so I started to make my way across the room because I wanted to take a picture of the entrance, but I wanted the widest angle. So I'm starting to back up and looking through my view screen to see make sure I get the widest angle to take pictures. And at this time, I can see other members coming in.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait till they get out of my shot, get, past me and, get my picture. And I'm still backing up to get that wide angle. And all of a sudden one of the members puts their hand on my shoulder and stops me. So it was like I turned to them to apologize because obviously I must have been backing them into the wall or something. And I turn around and there's nobody behind me.
Yeah.
Now, I physically felt the weight of a
Oh.
man's hand on my shoulder, pressure of his fingers, and it physically stopped me as I was stepping backwards.
Mm.
So I clearly was expecting to see one of my members behind me, and there was nobody there. So that for me was very fascinating.
That'd be a great place to have to record one of your sessions.
Yes, so we would love to go back, believe me.
Would they let you go back? You,
I'm not sure what the policies are now to do ghost hunts. I've not even heard of any teams going back there and doing investigations. So I don't know. I might have to dig into it. So since you brought that up, it does make me think maybe we might. It might be really expensive though. I don't know. Can't imagine how much they would charge to investigate Alcatraz.
well, I'd love to go to that one, but you know what? You probably won't even have to be naked for that one. It's all kinds of crazy. I mean, you felt something.
I did. Like I
Yeah.
said, a lot of times when you feel that tap on your shoulder, like a lot of us have felt in haunted places,
Mm,
I always second guess myself and I start, thinking, oh, maybe it was my jacket, maybe it was, the strap from my camera strap or something. And so I find myself doubting the experience more often than accepting it as paranormal. But
yeah,
when you have something physically stop you in motion, how do you explain that? That's not a muscle twitch. That's not your shirt, settling,
right.
you know?
It's your
So
brain saying someone is touching me. Yeah.
somebody was there. Yeah.
Yeah, so my friend, the psychic, has a daughter who also has a gift. She says she will never, ever step foot in Alcatraz again. She says when she was there, all she could see was inmates, like demon-like looking, dragging
Mhm.
themselves on the floor. Everyone was like on the like almost like parasitic like animals on the floor because
Huh.
it's very low density, very, very, they're in prison, so they had, that density with them. So she says she will never go back. She goes, it was the most horrific experience. It would be for someone who's sensitive and can see stuff,
Oh, I bet. I bet.
So when I was there, I'm like, I'm looking around going, well, I don't see anything, but I'm pretty sure there's stuff crawling all over the place. Who knows?
Probably lots of negativity there. That's for sure.
Yeah, it did feel a little, well, a lot. It did feel a lot heavy. So I like it though. I'd go back because I'm cynical like that. I'm like it. I don't really care.
Well, I would too. Even some of the darkest, scariest places, I'd still go
Yeah.
back to.
Wow. So is it hard for you to get guests on your show to be naked? Or is it that same guy saying, I'll do it
I
again.
I
I'll do it
I do
again.
have some repeats, that's for sure. But no, it's actually once people saw that we were serious about this, there was nothing perverted about it.
Well, no, it's not.
Yeah, so I think that was the biggest thing is like, having a bunch of guys asking a lady, "Hey, you mind getting naked for us in front of the camera? Come on."
Right.
Who's going to be willing to do that? But I think a lot of it was, once they realized, that this was a very serious thing. And we also too brought a woman onto our team just so that the ladies would feel comfortable. When it comes to looking over their body, we have her do it,
Right.
just to make sure that there's no marks on their bodies and stuff like that. We want them to feel as comfortable as possible, because we do realize, they're really putting themselves out there. Men or women,
Right.
they're really putting themselves out there. So we really want them to feel as comfortable as possible, because we do appreciate them doing these experiments for us, because it is such a unique thing, and a vulnerable thing too.
Right.
Because you
Definitely.
are, putting yourself out there in many different ways. You're alone in a haunted room where something has been known to physically touch people. And you're just sitting there, for a good, some experiments last for, 20 to 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they in pitch darkness?
Most of the time they're in pitch darkness. Yes.
Why does it have to be such in pitch
Well, a lot of this comes from the fact that, that's one of the things as paranormal investigators, you can do investigations in with the lights on.
dark?
We always try when we investigate cases, we always have our clients journal everything, what they were experiencing, what's the environment was like when they experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times the lights were on.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we'll do an investigation with lights on. Lights out usually helps us with infrared cameras, because infrared cameras can see things in the dark that we can't.
Mm-hmm.
So that does help in some cases. But also for subjects, we also find that it increases that sensitivity,
Mm-hmm.
because now you can't trust your line of sight.
Okay.
Now you're opening up your listening, your sense of feel is opening up a little bit more too, because you are so exposed in so many different ways.
Okay.
So we find that might help with the experiment as well.
Well, how do you deal with expectation? Like the person is understands why they're there and why they don't have clothes. Do you think that mentally they might be like, okay, okay, then I want to see if I feel, sometimes we imagine things
Right.
and it's like, so how do you say, well, no, that was a false alarm. That was,
Well, a lot of it is we're trying to match up the data with their experience.
okay.
So if they're saying, I feel a hand or a finger going down my arm, if we don't have any data to back that up, then unfortunately it may just be a psychological experience.
Right. So the data that you're talking about is like you got the infrared going on,
Yeah.
you got that, what do you call that,
We
movement?
got motion, we got
Motion.
lights, we got EMF, we got
Okay.
all kinds of different things going
Okay.
on.
All right. Yeah, kind of
So,
like, yeah.
so as much as, I'm not saying that feeling of that finger going down their arm was not a paranormal experience, but it was an experience we can't record.
Hmm.
We can't validate that. Not yet. Maybe as we learn more about these sensations that people are having, maybe we can validate those experiences. Maybe we can fine tune our equipment to pick up on those things.
Right.
But right now, it very well could have just been, something psychological, because you're, alone in a haunted room, hoping for something to touch you.
Right.
You're going to be ultra sensitive to every little thing when it could have
Right.
been a breeze.
Yeah.
So
Well, so have you ever received any like criticism from scientists or any other investigators for how you guys are conducting your investigations in the paranormal?
most of it hasn't been negative. I do have to say we did get one negative response or review, and that was because we blurred the naughty bits. So they were upset about that.
They were upset. Okay,
This
that's
this
it.
is
That's
not
what they're
naked
talking about.
experiments. Everything is blurred. I'm like, well, I'm
Oh, oh,
sorry you didn't get your thrills by seeing a
right.
naked person,
Okay, so
you
I wouldn't
know?
even call that valid.
Right. But mostly everything, when people see the documentary, they're floored. They're excited. They're just like, "Oh my gosh, why aren't other teams doing this? Why are we so far behind on something that is actually a very simple process in trying to prove the paranormal?"
Yeah,
If you think of a lot of these television shows have been on for, 20, almost going on 20 years.
yeah.
And yeah, because Ghost Hunters aired in 2004. So yeah, over 20 years, and they're still doing the exact same stuff over and over and over again.
They're just trying to capture the what do you got? Money shots,
Yeah.
the ooh ahs, and
The, did you
dude,
hear
I saw
that?
something, dude, I saw something. It's like, no, let's get a little bit more
And
serious.
it's sad because millions of dollars go into these episodes. And it's
Yeah.
like if I had access to that kind of money, we would have been doing so much more for the paranormal.
Have you shopped
We
your
pro
documentary around?
We actually, yes. In fact, we were actually up for a television series on the Sci-Fi Channel, but it was right before COVID, and COVID ended up getting that canceled
Well, I think you
because,
should still. I think you've got something really good here. A different angle, different perspective, fresh, and I think you should just go for it. I
if
think
you
you
know
should.
the right people. I've been offered television shows before in the past, and unfortunately, when they give you that contract and they tell you to look the other way when they decide to alter the story or alter the
Yeah,
evidence,
that's
I just couldn't
yeah.
do it. I was like, I've worked way too hard to build my credibility. I'm not going to allow one show to ruin it for me because they felt that my evidence was too dry, too boring. We need some more excitement.
Well, yeah,
Like,
yeah. They want to show. They want to show.
yeah,
They want
yeah.
ratings. So I guess
And
that's not.
like,
I think that's not the right format then.
oh yeah, I've been cut from shows because I wouldn't lie. I remember one show, this was a very popular show. I was being interviewed for my experiences that I had on the property that they were investigating. And the director's like, "Oh my God, that is such a great story. Can you do me a favor? Can you tell me again, but can you make it scarier?" And I was like, I,
What? What?
I guess it's on people's perspective.
Yeah.
I wasn't scared, but I'm sure somebody in my position might be scared. So I really can't make it scarier.
Yeah.
He's like, I get it. I get it. Well, how about if you tell us you'll never come back here again? And I'm like,
Oh,
I'm not going to go on national television as a ghost hunter and say, I'm too scared to ever come back to this place, especially because it was a place that I would do tours. I'd be there daily, doing
yeah.
tours.
A ghost hunter never
So,
backs down.
yeah, it's like,
But
I don't care how negative it is or scary it is, I will still go back.
the more activity, the better. That's why you're a ghost
Exactly.
hunter. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
So,
that's
yeah, so they ended up cutting me from that episode because I
oh
wasn't scary enough.
oh my God. Well, it's nice to know you're not a sellout. That's good.
Yeah,
And I know
yeah.
I'm talking to an honest
You
guy.
know, I could be bigger and be more wealthier, but I really believe in this field, and I really I want it to be done right. It's frustrating when I see a lot of these television shows and streaming shows, and they're doing everything wrong, or a lot of it is so fake what they're doing.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean,
Yeah,
you can tell it's fake, but people watch it, they love it, the ratings are there, more money, more money. So,
yeah.
sorry to hear that. Because I really loved your concept. I'm like, I gotta get a hold of this guy. This guy's got ParaSense and negative.
Maybe the door might open again under the right conditions. I'm
Yeah.
always open to it because I do understand the value of having the opportunity to be able to do your research. Right now, it's, funded by my, whatever I can afford out of my own back pocket. But if I had a little more money, there's a lot more I would do. There's a lot more that Chad would love to do,
Right,
you
exactly.
know.
Well, have you ever had a moment when you guys are setting up and then something paranormal happened to the crew or anybody and you're like, what? What? You know?
In fact, it's in the documentary. Chad was getting ready to do an experiment at the prison. And right before he dropped his robe, there was this loud bang right
Uh,
behind us. So we spent like, 10 minutes trying to figure out what that was before he went on to do his experiment. So it happens. You'll have a lot of exciting things, loud noises, flashes of light that you just can't explain. So yeah.
mm. So have any of your participants ever experienced anything like after the fact, like, hey Ross, some shit followed me home. I don't know what's going on, anything like that?
Um, yes. Um, it happened to Chad, the scientist. He just felt like something negative was attached to him after he had the
Mm.
experiences that he
Yeah.
had. And he was one of those people that, even though I forewarned him not to,
Right.
he went ahead and basically provoked what was there because he wanted the data so bad that he was willing to do whatever he could to get that data. And he felt provoking in a prison was one way to do that. And I really feel that that does open you up to so much more
Hmm.
when you go in there and provoke whatever's there and you're not prepared. And he wasn't prepared because he's not a ghost hunter. He's just a scientist
Right.
wanting to collect data. And so he's felt that what after those experiences, he was like, I don't know what this is, but just I just can't shake these feelings.
No.
So I believe that can happen to people, if you're not prepared in handling the situation correctly.
Mm.
So
So do you feel you have enough evidence or do you think you'll never have enough evidence to
well, I just say, yeah, there's always never enough evidence. I hope that in my lifetime that I'll have enough evidence to prove to people there's something there.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it's all ghosts because we don't know enough about ghosts to be able to say, yes, this is a ghost. We know enough just from what we've done so far that there is something to this.
Mhm.
Chad, who is a real scientist, has decided to continue this research. He's had enough personal experiences to know there is something to this,
Right.
and the data for him proves that. Now, it's not enough data to, write up the papers we need to and submit it to the scientific world and say, here you go. We prove that ghosts exist. We need more. And you're always going to need more. Unfortunately, ghosts don't perform on command.
Right.
So it's a lot more time and patience for us to put into this to hopefully get those hits that we need to say, okay, there was something there. So
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that yes,
Yeah.
eventually in my lifetime there'll be enough data to say we proved that there's something there. Now it's the next step to prove what is it.
What is it? Answer those questions. I remember I lived in New Orleans and I was in the Navy and my friend, the psychic, we went to the oldest bar in the nation, which was the blacksmith bar, Jean Lafitte, Do you know?
Okay, yep,
Yeah,
I've heard
Jean.
of it.
And we were in the back room where the piano is, and she told me, get your phone ready. I need you to record something real quick." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay." So I started recording. She goes, and I started to see orbs in the camera, but I didn't see what I actually captured. And then she goes, okay, I hope you're recording now because it just passed you. She goes, the ghost of Jean Lafitte just swooped by you. And I did. I captured it. It's like
Oh, wow.
this really, it's like this plasmatic, very, it had shape to it, just kind of went whoop. And so I'll send it to you so you can
Yeah,
see it.
I'd love to see it. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
and I'm like, oh, she goes, yeah, that was like again, like nothing, like
Hmm.
nothing. She goes, yeah, that's that guy, that pirate guy. What's his name? I'm like, oh, you mean Jean Lafitte? Yeah, he actually he likes to be in the bathroom looking at the girls. And
Oh,
there's been encounters where women saw a man with a hat, staring at them. So
wow.
again, she comes from Peru. She lives in Bakersfield now, but she knows nothing of our culture. She knows nothing of our history. So to her, it's just information. So I
Hmm.
thought that's my claim to fame is that little chew. So I'll send it to you. You're gonna be like, wow, this is
No, I'd love to see it. That's cool.
yeah, it's really cool. It's my prized possession. So where do you see I know you're gonna do the 2.0. Is that right?
Yep.
Do you have all your your participants in place?
No, no.
Those
Like
are
I
harder to come
said,
by.
yeah, it's one of those things that it really depends on where we get access to and then who's available at the time.
Mhm.
Because again, a lot of this is coming out of our own pocket. So right now, we're trying to focus on stuff that's more local. I'd love to travel more because I know a lot of great places. Um, but it's just not within our budget just yet. So we're trying to see if we can find some more local locations to focus on.
Okay, and where's local? Where are you?
I'm in the Seattle Tacoma area in Washington.
Ooh, oh, Washington. Yeah, I didn't know it was
Yeah.
there's like 10 million Washingtons around here. So
Washington State, yes.
okay, wow. Have you ever thought of like doing what do you call those like little fundraisers for the show? Because I know that that guy Pilatus, John Pilatus is I think his name, with the 411. He's
I'm
always
not sure.
yeah, he does the missing 411.
Oh yes, I did see a few of those on YouTube.
Yeah, so he
Well,
does that.
are they diving for cars? Is that the one you're thinking about? Is that the one?
No, they're
No?
missing children, missing people in the in the
Oh,
mountain
okay.
areas, Bigfoot
Okay.
sightings and all of that stuff.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of that somebody who uses their funds to help dive for cars in the water and find the bodies in there.
Oh, no.
So,
So what he does is when they want to like, do a whole movie, a whole campaign, they ask for help. And then
mhm.
they offer a cap in return or some credits. So and he's pretty successful at that. So that might be a good thing for you to get your name out there. I mean, who am I, right? But
Right. No, no, it might be a great idea for maybe the second one. Um, I'm always afraid that I don't want to affect my credibility. That people think, oh, he's just in it for the money.
no, I mean it's
And
you.
that's
I
just
mean
like,
it's your
yeah, no,
show, produce a show. You're
yeah,
very upfront. And if you do that, I will be your first investor. So,
I appreciate that.
okay. So,
Yes. So
um,
it is something I've thought about, so it's not off the table.
yeah, just,
But right now we're about halfway through 2.0. My biggest thing is I would love to find a doctor that does that, maybe a retired doctor that worked with you know, MRIs. Is that the
mm-hmm.
right one? The brainwave
Brainwave, yeah.
activity.
Hmm.
Yes. I would love to do some research in that with this second one
Okay.
because I think that would be fascinating to be able to understand more of the physical body itself, and
Definitely.
help us to understand because it is about debunking as well. When people have physical experiences, is it something they can project on themselves
Hmm.
and not know it? So I think having a better understanding of brainwave activity would be kind of cool. So I'd love to find a doctor that'd be willing to help us with that.
Definitely.
Mm.
Um, I had a question. It just went. Oh, um, well, if you ever, I'm offering myself here to you. If you ever need branding for your next anything you do with your videos or anything like that, let me be of service to you.
Well,
It would be a donation, so there would be no fee attached to it, and because I have a branding company aside from this. So, if you need someone to like, hey, hook me up with a nice cover for a nice, just give me a call. I'll hook you
sure.
up.
Well, thank you.
I'll hook
We
you
always
up. Don't worry
appreciate
about
any help. Definitely.
it. Definitely, especially if it's free.
Yes, that's always nice.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything you want to promote? Anything aside from your 2.0?
Well, definitely, I know we didn't talk about any of my books, but
Oh, yes,
if you
please.
are,
Let's talk
yes, no,
about,
no, we're
we're
good. We're
not
good.
done. Let's continue. I'm sorry.
No, no, I'm just saying, just if you're interested in any of my books, you can find them on Amazon. I did a series with David Weatherly, and we talked about haunted toys and churches and prisons and lighthouses and all that stuff. So it
Oh,
was a
all
fun
the
little
good stuff.
series to do.
Nice.
Yeah, so maybe we can do another show and we'll talk about that stuff too.
Yes, let's do that. We can brag about our books.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Definitely. I would love to have you on again. You were such a pleasure and I love your knowledge and I th I just think you're so underrated and y- we need to like catapult you to where you belong and if
Well,
there's
thank you.
anything I can do on my end creatively, I would love to do that. I would love to
I
partake.
appreciate that. I know it's as an author yourself, it's a lot of trying to sell yourself. And
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not good at always trying to put myself out there and sell myself. I
Definitely.
just like doing the work, the research. So,
Yeah, I love the research myself. I love the solitude in the writing, the moment where I'm
hmm
just in my headspace. But if you ever have anything to promote, anything to talk about, reach out to me. Say, hey, Nani, it's time. It's time to do another show. Let's do it.
You bet.
Give me a
Anytime.
call. Just give me a call. Again,
Again, I appreciate it.
yeah, it was a pleasure. I love this topic. And when I first saw it, I'm like, who is this guy? Naked. I just thought it was genius. I'm like, he's got something here. So
Well, thank you.
I love
So
your
yeah,
approach.
and just doing this and getting that out there it does help out a lot. And I always try to encourage people, if you do get a chance to watch it, please post a review. Reviews really do help push
Yeah,
it out there so
absolutely.
that it'll show up in people's search engines. So
Definitely. Oh my God. Ross, Allison, thank you so much for being a very gracious host. I mean, guest. I'm your host. Uh, gracious guest. I would love to have you again. Just give me a tap on the shoulder and
we'll do.
we'll do that. Okay?
I'll send the ghost to do that.
Definitely. I'll be like, yes, Alan, Mr. Allison, I will do it for you right now. Book,
Awesome.
I'm booking you right now. All right. Well, you have a great evening, and
Oh, you too.
oh, thank you. I'll see you on the next one.
All right. Take
Okay.
care.
You too.